hello everybody. We are going to talk about oil pastels today. What I need everybody to get is your set of oil pastels. They are labeled here with a number and an A or B, depending on what class it is. And Mr. Spratt has the number that you need, okay? So pass those out, and then everybody needs to get a piece of brown construction paper, a half sheet. He has that as well. And then you're going to need a pencil. I'm using a white pencil so you can see what I draw. So I want everybody to pause the video right now and get your supplies. And then you may unpause it when you have your supplies. Okay, so I'm assuming you have your supplies right now. So I'm going to talk to you about how to work with oil pastels. Oil pastels are a type of crayon. Crayons are made up of oil, pigment, and wax. Oil pastels have a little bit more oil than crayons do. The cheaper the pastel, the more wax they have and the less pigment. The more expensive the pastel, the more pigment and the more oil that's in them, okay? So these are student grade pastels. So we will talk about how to use them right now, okay? The first thing that I want to talk about with oil pastels is how to blend them, how to get shadows and highlights with them. Okay, and then we'll talk about how to use them while we do this. So this is pulled up on, this is posted in Google Classroom, all right? So I'm going to go through this with you right now, okay? So what I want you to do is take your piece of construction paper and just fold it in half, okay? Okay. Then what you're going to do is draw a line down the middle and then a line on the opposite side down the center, okay? Making 4 quadrants. Then I want you to draw a cylinder in the center right here. So we'll start out up here with a nice little smile. Come down here and do that little smile again. And then you can draw your line straight down. Draw your line straight down. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so we have more room up here. And I'm not worried about that white pencil because I know I'll go over it, okay? I'm just going to loop this around. Careful to make these edges nice and rounded, okay? Now again, I will color over those areas. Okay, so I have a nice cylinder here. Okay, the first thing that I want us to talk about is pressure. Okay, so number 1 quadrant is pressure. You probably don't have room to write it, but the number 1 quadrant is pressure. You may have to write it down right here, which will be fine. Okay, pressure. Try to darken it up for you. So let's all choose the same color. Let's choose red. You notice when you get your pastels, I don't know if mine are in the right color order as yours. There's 2 things that look like red. Now from this lighting, you can tell that this is definitely orange, but in person, this looks way more red than it does on the screen. So this one is your red. I don't think they're labeled with the color, no. Okay, so we've talked about pressure before. You want to use light pressure where things are lighter. So in the center over here, we know that that's probably going to be a little bit lighter. So just barely apply a little bit of pressure. And I'm just holding it. You can hold it like a crown if you want. I like to hold it kind of like a stick, okay? Just because it's so small. And then just like we've talked about with other types of media, you want to start lightly and then build up. So since I'm doing an outline, I'm really lightly touching the paper with the side of my pastel right there. Very lightly. And then now that I'm going to come in the center here, I'm going to use the middle part. And again, I'm just using real light pressure here. have pretty much gone over the whole little area there with light pressure. Now I want to show where some darks would be. Maybe some darks are right in here. So I'm applying just a little bit more pressure. You will notice as you use this that you do not need a ton of pressure to get darker, all right? Okay, and that's about what you want right now for pressure. I might want to go in here where I know it's going to be a little darker and just darken all of that in, and then leave the paper to show where things are lighter. That is pressure. Okay, we're going to move down to the number 2 part to show how to add values. So this is color plus complement. So I'm going to write color and I'm just going to put comp, and I'll explain what that is. Okay. A color's complement is directly across from that color on the color wheel. I think my dog just hit the doorbell to go outside. I think that's what that was. Gus, did you hit the doorbell? Okay, so if we look at our color wheel, complementary colors are directly opposite each other on the color wheel, okay? So if I look at red, which is what we're using, directly opposite red is green. So let's use green. We've got several greens. We want to use green that is just pure green, and that would be this one right here, okay? And where you added darks and extra pressure up here for a color's complement to get darker, you want to add the complement where those darks are. Now, if this were a cylinder sitting on the table, the darks would be around the side and at the very bottom, okay? So I'm using light to medium pressure just to build this up, okay? And I'm curving my lines just a little bit. And I'm going to increase those lines as I get down here to the bottom, all right? And now I want to start to blend. So a way that you can blend with oil pastels is by layering. So using light pressure, I'm going over my green with my red to blend it in, okay? And you can see how this is already getting a nice dark. Often with oil pastels, you can use hatching to help blend those colors in, cross hatching and hatching, all right? So I'm using light pressure. Now I'm using these round scribbly marks like we've talked about before, just to kind of blend this in, again, using very light pressure, all right? And you can see how much different that looks. Like this has given me a nice, rich, very rich color. So a way that you can work with oil pastels, I've showed you hatching and cross hatching. And now this is just this round scribbling, okay? Just to help blend the colors in. If you want it a little bit more dark, you can just layer it in. Okay. So you can see how rich my darks are there. Really, really nice, rich colors. Let's talk about another way we can get darks in. This is probably the most basic way, and it's adding black. Okay, so black. You are going to do this the exact same way that you added your color, but just a little bit more sparingly because it's definitely going to be dark. So you can see I'm just making these scribbly marks here, okay? Very lightly just to get the black in. And then I'm going to go over that with my color, and you can see how it's already pulling really, really dark, okay? So you do not need near as much black as you do the complement to get a dark. I've gone a little bit heavy on the black. So you can see how very little you need, okay? You see how heavy I went on the black? It's blacker. And what I'm doing now is I'm just pulling it over just a little bit. Okay. So you really do not need much black at all. This got very, very, very dark. Okay. Now I'm just pulling the black over just with these motions. Okay. Just with these contour swooping motions, I'm just pulling it over. Okay, now let's talk about going lighter, and that is to add white. So you take your white, and just up here where the area of highlight would be, like right here, maybe right over here, and in here some. What I want you to do first is plot that in, just like your value map. And then you're just going to go around it. My dad's truck is loud. To leave those in. You can go over it some to blend it in if you needed to in some areas, so then that's going to also pastel it out. And then you can go right back in and add it a little bit more. But that will, like you see, make it a little bit blended and pastel. So if you want a nice crisp white, you need to leave it in, okay? Okay, so what I need us to do is try this for me, and then you will turn this section in. Keep your paper because we're going to do more to it, but this completes this lesson. Turn this one in, and then move on to the next video.